Have you ever picked up one of those huge, opaque plastic bottles of generic multivitamins and wondered if they accidentally filled it with gravel?
Ha, yeah. You shake it and it sounds dense.
Right. It feels like you're holding a bag of small rocks.
It's an interesting feeling, isn't it? And today, for our deep dive, we are going to look into why that is. We're getting into the ingredients and the industrial supply chain of a lot of these popular, affordable vitamin
And
products.
our mission is pretty simple. We want to figure out why the cheapest option might come with a hidden, pretty high price tag for your health.
Exactly. We want to help you sort the good stuff, the quality nutrients from, well, the cheap fillers and industrial byproducts that, they look great on a label, but they do almost nothing for your body.
We're basically looking at why those big bottles are so heavy.
And why you might be swallowing something that is functionally just trash.
Okay, let's get into it. The heavy truth.
Yes.
When you look at the label on those cheap supplements, the very first ingredient listed is almost always calcium carbonate.
And that right there is the answer. Calcium carbonate is quite literally limestone.
You're kidding.
Not at all. When you buy these pills, you are actually purchasing compacted stone.
So is this gravel
Yeah.
question wasn't even really a joke. It was just an accurate description.
Pretty much. But the big problem isn't just that it's a rock, it's the biological issue.
What's the problem with swallowing limestone? I mean, beyond the obvious.
Well, it's about complexity. This is not the calcium you find in, say, dairy or leafy greens. The body finds it incredibly difficult to break down and actually use calcium carbonate.
Oh, difficult.
Think of it like a treasure chest with 12 different locks on it. Your body has to go through up to 12 separate biochemical steps just to unlock and use that nutrient.
Wow, 12 steps. That sounds
Mhm.
exhausting for the body just for one mineral.
It is, and if it doesn't get absorbed, it
Yeah.
just sits there. The body really struggles to eliminate excess supplemental calcium and iron. It can cause more problems than it solves.
Okay, so that's the calcium. But it gets even more interesting because we move from one rock to another budget favorite,
Yeah.
magnesium oxide.
Ah, yes. It's cheap, it's everywhere, and it's a standard in almost any generic multivitamin.
But I'm guessing there's a catch.
A huge one. It comes down to something called bioavailability, how much of it your body could actually use.
And for magnesium oxide.
The absorption rate is, well, it's abysmal. It's only about 3 to 4%.
Wait, hang on. 3 to 4%.
That's it. If you compare that to a better form like magnesium glycinate, that absorbs at around 80%.
That is a staggering difference. So 96 cents of every dollar I spend on magnesium oxide is just nothing.
Precisely. And that leads to the common argument, right? People say, well, it's cheap, I'll just take more of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. If it's only 4% effective, I'll just take, 5 times the dose. What happens then?
And that's the comedic package deal that comes with this ingredient. You take a higher dose, and it immediately turns into a powerful osmotic laxative. Yeah. So it's great if you're constipated, but if you're trying to get magnesium for, muscle function or nerve health, you're literally flushing it all down the toilet.
So we've established the mineral base is often rocks and powerful laxatives. Does it get any better with the actual vitamins?
Unfortunately, no. The cheap approach usually carries right on through, and that takes us into the whole debate between natural and synthetic vitamins.
The synthetic identity crisis. I've seen natural on so many bottles. How can something made in a lab be called natural?
It's a classic labeling loophole. There aren't really any strict legal definitions. So manufacturers argue that because the base materials they use, like crude petroleum or coal,
Petroleum.
yep, because those things originally came from the ground, they say the final product is technically derived from nature.
I've heard experts say that the basic molecular structure is the same, so it doesn't matter. Synthetic is just as good as natural.
That is a very neat and tidy claim, but it ignores how biology actually works. When you synthesize a vitamin from industrial chemicals, you're only isolating one tiny fraction of what existed in the food.
So even if the main molecule looks the same,
It's not the whole story. These isolated synthetic fractions just don't absorb as well because they're missing their supporting cast.
let's use a real example. Vitamin C. Everyone knows vitamin C. The synthetic version is called ascorbic acid.
Right. And the industrial reality of ascorbic acid is pretty grim. Over 90% of the world's supply is synthesized in China.
Okay.
And the typical starting material, it's highly processed, often genetically modified corn. That corn is then put through an industrial process involving high heat and sulfuric acid.
Sulfuric acid.
It's an industrial chemical product. It bears very little resemblance to the vitamin C complex you find in an orange.
That really paints a picture.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the core issue, right? The missing cofactors.
Exactly. Vitamins in nature are never loners. They always come in a complex. I like to think of it like a band. You need the drummer, the bassist, the guitarist, all of them to make the music.
If you only have the lead singer, you don't get the song.
You don't get the symphony. And cofactors are those other band members. They're the trace minerals and other vitamins that are absolutely essential for the main vitamin to do its job.
So if I take a huge dose of just synthetic vitamin D, for example, what's the risk?
The risk is internal depletion. Your body gets this huge dump of one isolated vitamin, and it scrambles to find the cofactors it needs to process it. It can actually deplete your own stores of those other essential minerals.
So taking one thing can make you deficient in another.
It can. Vitamin D activates over 2,000 genes, but it needs magnesium and zinc to do it. Take it alone, and you might just be burning through your body's supply of those crucial cofactors.
And this problem is really big when it comes to synthetic B vitamins, right? Like cyanocobalamin for B12 and folic acid for B9.
This is a massive issue, a huge one that most people just aren't aware of. What's fascinating is that we know that over 40% of the population has a genetic issue, a conversion impairment, that stops them from properly processing these synthetic forms.
Wait, say that again? Nearly half the people taking these cheap vitamins can't even use the B vitamins inside.
That's right. They struggle to convert them into the active forms the body actually needs, like methylcobalamin and methylfolate.
Methyl? I've seen that word on more expensive bottles.
And that's why they're more expensive. Those are the pre-activated forms. The synthetic versions, like cyanocobalamin, require a bunch of conversion steps in the liver. If your genes aren't up to the task, you just create a backup. The unconverted synthetic vitamin just circulates in your system, causing potential problems and offering zero benefit.
So we've got rocks, laxatives, and industrial corn that a huge chunk of the population can't even absorb. Now, what holds all this stuff together? The fillers.
Ah, yes, the binders and fillers, the king of which is maltodextrin.
I see that on so many labels.
It's everywhere. It's a highly refined industrial starch, usually from cheap field corn, the kind of corn not even fit for us to eat raw. But it's great for turning ingredients into a dry, pressable powder.
And I imagine it's incredibly cheap.
Unbelievably cheap. It comes from heavily subsidized crops, so the price is driven way down, under $200 for a cubic ton. It's the perfect bulk filler.
And the irony is how it's labeled, right? They call it a complex carbohydrate, which sounds healthy.
It's a legal technicality, but in reality, because it's so hyper-refined, maltodextrin has a glycemic index that spikes your blood sugar way more dramatically than even regular table sugar.
So the filler in your health product is actually worse for your blood sugar than candy.
It can completely nullify any of the anti-inflammatory benefits you were hoping to get from the vitamin in the first place.
This all brings us to, I guess you could call it the dramatic turn, the corporate control. Who actually owns these brands?
Yeah. This is where you see the illusion of choice. You walk down the aisle and see dozens of brands, but the reality is that nearly all of them, close to 100% of the major brands, are owned by just 14 companies.
And these aren't small health-focused businesses.
Not at all. We're talking big pharma, big food, big chemical, massive global corporations.
Can you give us a few examples?
Absolutely. Centrum, that's owned by Pfizer. One A Day is owned by Bayer, the company that also owns Roundup Ready. Nature Made is owned by a drug company that sells major pharmaceuticals like Abilify.
Wow. So the whole ecosystem is controlled by companies whose main focus is, well, it's not artisanal vitamin sourcing.
Their focus has historically been on maximizing profit and making things cheap. And since the raw synthetic vitamins themselves come from just 3 or 4 major chemical companies worldwide.
It's all just the same handful of industrial suppliers putting their chemicals into different bottles with different labels.
That's pretty much it, which makes the final label deception, the standardization loophole, even more frustrating.
Standardization. That sounds good, right? Like, it's a guarantee of quality.
It sounds impressive, but all it guarantees is a minimum potency. It ensures a tiny, legally required amount of the active compound is present, but it says nothing about what makes up the other 99% of the pill.
So use the ginseng example. A label says 100 milligrams, standardized to 0.5%. What am I actually buying?
You're guaranteed that 0.5% active compound, sure. But to make that 100 milligram pill, they have to mix that tiny fraction with 99.5% filler.
99.5% filler.
You are effectively buying and swallowing 99.5 milligrams of cheap filler silica, or our old friend maltodextrin, just to get a microscopic dose of the good stuff.
So to wrap this up, the foundation is limestone, the structure is industrial corn, and the guarantee is that you're mostly just paying for filler, all sold by a handful of giant corporations.
And what's critically missing from all of these products are the things that make food-based nutrients so valuable in the first place, the phytonutrients.
Those are the supportive compounds, right?
The ones that deliver the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. They're the complex, natural remedies that new drugs are often modeled on. Before they get synthesized, isolated, and, as we've seen, kind of messed up for mass production.
The bottom line seems to be that the goal of these products is just maximum affordability, no matter the cost to genuine quality.
That's the heart of it. We look at vitamins as simple things, but the quality is all in the context. The absorption, the cofactors, the sorts.
So when you're standing in that supplement aisle, holding that heavy bottle of natural rocks and chemical corn, maybe the question to ask is this. If these products are designed to make you feel well, shouldn't we know if the people selling them have a good track record for doing the right thing or just the cheap thing?
Something to think about next time you feel that weight in your hand.